talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we're talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we're talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening? What is shaking? Happy you're having a great day. Listen, tonight, let me tell you about the Rosenbergs, everybody's favorite espionage couple. It's a story of theft, intrigue, Cold War espionage, and of course, electricity. But just at the very end. Hey, let's look who's in our chat room. We've got Roller Skater Texas Girl. Always good to see her. Nick is here. And, of course, Turkatron. How you doing, Turkatron? Johnny 8 has joined us with the hashtag Gulley Time. Gulley Time. It is. It's that time again. It is that time again. Quick side story. As many of you know, I speak to my dear sainted mother at 7 a.m. every Monday morning. Had a delightful talk with her. And through our conversation, which our conversations are always rollicking, frolicking, nonstop, fun, unexpurgated, freewheeling topics. Hey, Sky is here. I've been having intense discussions with Sky over electronics and software and stuff. Good to see him. H2BH. We started, me and my mother, we started talking about Wendy's. And I mentioned to her that I was unaware of a Wendy's near me because I'd never really searched for one before, but I do enjoy a Wendy's burger. I find them more burgery and beefy than other lesser burgers. And so today at lunchtime, I decided to venture to get a Wendy's double with ketchup, pickle, mustard, and some fries, which I don't normally get fries. I don't do a lot of fast food. And a Frosty. Now, keep in mind, I haven't been to Wendy's in a long time. And also keep in mind that I have not ever been able to sit in a drive-thru. I always park and go in. It just seems quicker that way. So I parked. Well, let's get to the heart of the issue first. I pull in, and as I pull in, you know how some parking lots for fast food places will have, and the buildings will have like a banner? Wendy's is apparently already in full swing for their Halloweening. And so the banner that faced me was part of their Halloween theme. Now, just to give you an idea what that theme is like, here is the spoon of gloom. The spoon of gloom, which may give you an idea, sort of the theme that they have. I don't know what this bottom part means. Wendy's X Wednesday, Netflix. That must be a show on Netflix. Anyway, so the spoon of gloom. Sadly, the overall theme that they chose, and you don't want to see this when you're pulling into a fast food place. This is because fast food is known sometimes for not staying within the body as long as a regular meal. The banner read, Meals of Misfortune. Now look, I've worked in marketing and advertising for a long time. That was a bad call. Because anybody who finds themselves rushing to the bathroom is going to be thinking about meals of misfortune. Now, let's take it a step further, shall we? I went inside. There was nobody in there. I went after lunch. It was like 1:30 or something, past the lunch rush. And there was a really old guy, and then there was a couple, and that's it. So I had free, unencumbered egress to the counter. And I got up there, and it was an older lady, and she was in a hurry. I was not in a hurry. She was in a hurry. And she said, man, can I help you? And I said, let's see here. I would like a Wendy's double. Didn't even get that out of my mouth before she goes, Wendy's Classic? And I said, I didn't realize there was anything but just a Wendy's double. I will go ahead and guess that I want the Wendy's Classic because until just now, I was unaware there was any other kind. And I would like a medium fry, and I would like and I looked up where it said Frosties, and I'm used to just vanilla and chocolate. there's like 9 different kinds of Frosties up there. And I saw the new Frosty Swirl came in strawberry, so I went for that. And like lightning, I mean, this sandwich was ready so fast. It couldn't have been 90 seconds. And she comes over and I see her putting the fries in, and I go, I asked for a medium fry. And she goes, oh, and she starts to go back to the register, and then she just went, nah, and she just went back, got the medium fries, threw them in. And so far, it's been 5 hours. It has not been a meal of misfortune so far. I can't say, you may see me run during the middle of the show because I had to drive back. It's only 1.8 miles from me, but it's in a direction that I never go. So there's my story. It's sad to tell. Sad to tell though it is it as sad as the story of our good friends Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, who are right there? I don't think so, but they kind of had it coming. This is Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, and I know many of you right now are going, why is there a fence between them? That seems rather impersonal for a married couple. Well, I'm going to tell you in a second. Julius there was born in 1918, and he was born in New York City. His family, though, his parents, were immigrants from the Russian Empire. I'm not talking about the Soviet Union. When they got out of there, the Soviet Union had not begun. It was the Russian Empire. And they moved here to the Lower East Side. I'm going to show you a big picture of that. They moved to the Lower East Side in around the time he was growing up. He went to Seward Park High School. He became a leader, and this is when our story takes a turn for the worse. He became a leader in the Young Communist League USA. Not to be confused with the Young Communist League Canada or the Young Communist League Mexico, or this is the one for the USA, which I doubt very seriously that anyone in the Young Communist League ever did. They never went USA. But anyway, they were in the Young Communist League. And he did this while he was at City College in New York during the Great Depression. Now, in 1939, Julius was no stoop, right? Look at him. He was no stoop. Incidentally, that's a mugshot. And that's a fine mugshot. We can notice a few things. Julius was at least, how tall? He looks around like a 6-footer maybe. I don't know. He had trouble with his jacket and tie. It's a little off center. But anyway, there's Julius. And yeah, that's him. Now, Ethel was born in 1915. And for those of you doing the math at home, well, that means Ethel was actually about 2.5, 3 years older than Julius. And she was born to a family in Manhattan. And she had a brother. Her original name, her maiden name, was Ethel Greenglass. And her brother's name was David Greenglass. Now, she was originally, and as you can see, she's just a skosh over 5 feet. She's not much taller than 5 feet tall. I mean, she's a tiny little thing. And she originally was an aspiring actress, and she wanted to be a singer as well. But like most aspiring actresses and singers, she took a secretarial job at a shipping company. And why is that important? Well, because the shipping company had some labor disputes, and she got right in there, and she joined the Young Communist League USA, where she met Julius in 1936, and they married 3 years later in 1939. Now, boy, oh boy, does this thing start to go off the rails for the Rosenbergs. Let's put them together. You've seen them apart. I'll show you again, but let's put them together again, because God knows we'd hate to separate a loving couple like this one, right? Let's see here. We got some comments. Wow, the Jell-O show takes a dark turn. Well, that was last Thursday. Definitely. Well, now. Oh, hey, by the way, Gene 1313, Jell-O actually plays a part in this whole thing, and you think I'm joking, but I'm not joking. And the reason I did the Rosenbergs after the Jell-O show wasn't like, oh, it's going to be a theme or something, but it's that I remembered something about Jell-O and decided to, Anyway, Johnny says Aaron Imholt would kill for that mugshot. He really would, and he'd brag about it afterwards, by the way. So Julius Rosenberg there, hard to see behind the fencing. Oh, Gene knows the story of the Rosenbergs and Jello. Well, good, Gene. I'm glad you know that. Not a lot of people know that. Julius Rosenberg joins the Army Signal Corps Engineering Laboratories. He is, after all, an electrical engineer. In Fort Monmouth, New Jersey in 1940, where he worked as an engineer inspector until 1945. Now, let's repeat that. From 1940 to 1945, Mr. Youth Communist League USA is working at this engineering laboratory, which, we'll get to it in a second. Why did he stop in 1945? Well, it was because the U.S. Army discovered his previous membership in the Communist Party USA. Extremely important research on electronics, communications, radar, and guided missile controls, as well as some things he would come into contact later, were undertaken at Fort Monmouth during World War II. Yes. And on Labor Day 1942, Julius Rosenberg was recruited to spy for the Interior Ministry of the Soviet Union, which was called NKVD. And he was recruited by spy master Semyon Semyonov. Semyon Semyonov, yes. He'd been introduced by a high-ranking member of the Communist Party USA and a liaison to the Soviet Interior Ministry. And after Semyonov was recalled to Moscow in 1944, his duties were taken over by a guy named Alexander Feklisov. These two guys became very popular in the Soviet Union thanks to Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Julius Rosenberg provided thousands of classified reports from Emerson Radio. Now, Emerson Radio to this day, it's one of the largest, manufacturers and distributors of consumer electronics in the United States. It's been around since 1912. They design, they market, and they license many product lines worldwide. If you've ever had an Emerson radio, they actually are really, really, really good radios. And one of the things that Emerson was working on was called a proximity fuse. And it really is what it sounds like. It is a fuse for a bomb that goes off, not on the basis of a long string that slowly burns down, but by the proximity it has to something. And that's very important to increase the destructive factor of many bombs, or indeed to make them go off right when they hit the ground. But it's super important when it comes to an atomic bomb, because for an atomic bomb, we've all seen the movies of the tests, which were done right there on the ground. When you drop them, in order to have the most destructive force, you actually want them to explode hundreds of feet before they hit the ground. It dramatically increases the destructive capability of the bomb. So the proximity fuse and just handing it over to the Russians, the Soviets, not a good idea. Here's another thing Julius did. Under the supervision of these Ruskies, these Soviets, these commies, like Feklisov, he recruited people to also become spies. A bunch of them. And you can actually do the biographies of these guys. These guys also did a bunch of bad stuff. Joel Barr, Alfred Sarant, William Pearl, Morton Sobel, who was also an engineer. That litany of names that I just told you, those were not their real names. Joel Barr's real name was Iosif Venemichovich Berg. Alfred Savant was Philip Georgievich Staros. William Pearl was William Mutter Pearl, and Morton Sobel, well, okay, he was just Morton Sobel. So one of these guys that Rosenberg recruited, right? He supplied thousands of documents from the National Advisory Committee for Aeronautics, including a complete set and production of the set of design and production drawings for Lockheed's P-80 Shooting Star, which was the U.S.'s first operational jet fighter. Just gave it to the Russians. Yeah. And Feklisov learned through Rosenberg that Ethel's brother, remember I mentioned Ethel Greenglass? Well, her brother David Greenglass was working on a little thing called the top secret Manhattan Project at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. And so Julius recruited him too. Yes. And then he went and got a second source of the Manhattan Project information, an engineer named Russell McNutt, who worked on designs for the plant at Oak Ridge National Laboratory. Now, you might not have heard of Oak Ridge National Laboratory, but Oak Ridge National Laboratory was the place where they produced the weapons-grade uranium for the atomic bomb. So now, thanks to Julius Rosenberg, they not only had a guy inside the Manhattan Project at Los Alamos, they had a guy inside the Manhattan Project at the place where they manufactured the uranium for it. Hey, and by the way, forgetting that guy recruited from Oak Ridge where the weapons-grade uranium was manufactured, Julius Rosenberg received a $100 bonus. Hey now, I'll leave it to one of you to figure out how much that was worth in 1953. I'm going to take a guess and say it was, I don't know, $250. Yeah, I got a bonus for that. The United States, even though the Soviet Union technically was our ally while all this was going on, World War II was still raging, didn't share or seek assistance from the Soviet Union. And subsequently, when the Soviet Union gained an atomic/nuclear capability and did their first nuclear test in 1949, the United States was absolutely stunned at how fast it had happened. And there is some conjecture over whether the things that Julius and his band of spies gave them really helped that much, but they couldn't have hurt. Okay? They basically, the Soviets, they came to some of the same mathematical conclusions. The math was out there if you worked hard enough on it, but actually making it happen was a different thing. And the Soviets were not as easily equipped to manufacture or procure the uranium, which is why it's a big deal that Russell McNutt, recruited by Julius Rosenberg, gave them design and production plans of that plant. Very, 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 very bad. Bad. Well, in January of 1950, let's put Julius's mugshot back up here, shall we? Because he deserves it. Oh, wow. Let's see. This guy says it's worth $1,080. Still, it seems kind of on the cheap, doesn't it? You can get a rebate on a Nissan Sentra for more than that. It just seems like, you know. Anyway, in January of 1950, the United States discovered that a guy by the name of Carl Fuchs, who was a German refugee and a theoretical physicist working for the British part, the helpers from Great Britain in the Manhattan Project, well, he'd been giving key documents to the Soviets throughout the war. And he identified a guy named Harry Gold, who was his courier, who was the guy he would hand the materials off to. Well, they arrested Harry Gold, who apparently spilled a lot of details, because on June 15th, 1950, guess who gets arrested by the FBI for espionage and confessed everything, passing secret information to the USSR. He claimed that Julius Rosenberg had convinced his wife, David Greenglass, yes, Ethel Rosenberg's brother, ratted out everybody. And he claimed that Julius Rosenberg convinced his wife to recruit him while she was visiting him in Albuquerque, New Mexico, in 44. He said Julius had passed secrets and thus linked him to Soviet contact agents, and this connection would be necessary as evidence if they were going to get the Rosenbergs for espionage. Incidentally, here's one of the things that good old David Greenglass had passed on. This is a diagram of the nuclear core of one of the two bombs that were dropped on Japan. Okay? They were kind of two different bombs. At least they had two different triggering mechanisms. One was the proximity fuse that we mentioned earlier. The other was what they called a gun type system that would shoot, I think it was some sort of mineral, something that would react with the uranium to cause the chain reaction. So there you go. And let's see here. I think we will just do that. Yeah. So on July 17th, 1950, Julius was arrested on suspicion of espionage, and that was based solely on David Greenglass's confession. Look at that guy. What a rat. And by the way, do you own a comb? Please. They have Ethel testify before a grand jury. And when she did, she took the Fifth Amendment over and over and over again. So she was arrested like on the courthouse steps after testifying. One of the other conspirators, I mentioned him earlier, Morton Sobel, he fled with his family to Mexico City after Greenglass here was arrested because he knew the jig was up for him. It was over. But when he went to Mexico City, he claims he was kidnapped by members of the Mexican secret police and driven to the U.S. border where they just handed him over. The U.S. said that he was arrested for bank robbery. Anyway, he was extradited the next day, so that's what happened there. There was a grand jury. 20 senior U.S. government officials met together to discuss the Rosenberg case. The chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission, he said it looks as if, and his name was Gordon Dean, says it looks as if Rosenberg is the king of a very large ring, and if there's any way of breaking him by having the shadow of the death penalty over him, we want to do it. Miles Lane, a member of the prosecution team, said the case against Ethel was not too strong, but it was very important that she be convicted too and given a stiff sentence. And FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover said, well, he wrote actually, proceeding against the wife will serve as a lever to make Julius talk. Oh, how wrong they were. The case against Ethel was finished 10 days before the start of the trial when David and Ruth Greenglass were interviewed for a second time. They convinced them to change their original stories. David at first had said that he had passed the atomic data he collected to Julius on a New York street corner. But being interviewed a second time, he said he had given the information to Julius in the living room of the Rosenbergs' New York apartment, and that Ethel had typed up all the notes. Yes, and Ruth backed him up on that. So as a result of this, and many people think that he was convinced to change his story because he got a plea deal and wasn't going to face the death penalty, and his wife Ruth had all the charges dropped against her. That's why a lot of people think they changed the story. On August 11th, Ethel testified before a grand jury. For all of the questions, as I mentioned, she took the fifth, and FBI agents took her into custody as she left the courthouse. Yeah. Her attorney asked the authorities to parole her in his custody over the weekend so that she could make arrangements for her two young children, and they said, tough noogies. Julius and Ethel were under a lot of pressure to incriminate others involved in the spy ring, but neither offered any further information. On August 17th, the grand jury returned an indictment alleging 11 overt acts, and both Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were indicted, as were David Greenglass and another person. Now listen, my good friend Gene1313 has brought up the ugly specter of Jell-O's involvement in this. Let me tell you how that happened. Poor Jell-O. Poor Jell-O. During one of the drop-offs of information, Julius was required to meet someone who he had not previously met. And the signal, the clincher, was that a box of Jell-O had been cut into a certain pattern, the actual box. And whoever he met was supposed to fit that box together with the part of the box that Julius possessed. And that would certify, okay, this is the guy. No two other boxes of Jell-O could be cut in this fashion. So Gene1313, good catch, good call. Thank you for mentioning it, because it is the thing that made me go, you know, Jell-O had a part in that whole, and just to show you what scurrilous, anti-American, communist Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were, they drug the good name of Jell-O through their crimes. Terrible. Absolutely terrible. The trial of the Rosenbergs on federal charges began in March of 1951 in New York, the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Judge Irving Kaufman presided over the trial. U.S. Attorney Irving Sapol led the prosecution, and criminal defense lawyer Emanuel Block represented the Rosenbergs. Now, I've got to tell you, poor Emanuel, he was playing a losing hand the whole time. They were out to, convict him. There was really one primary witness, and that was David Greenglass, Ethel's brother. I'll put this guy up again. There he is. He was the he was the primary witness. Yeah. He said that he turned over a sketch of the cross-section of an implosion-type atom bomb. Okay? This was the Fat Man bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki, Japan, as opposed to a bomb with the gun method, as I mentioned earlier. And that was a triggering device that was used in the Little Boy bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima. This is the Fat Man bomb that was dropped on Nagasaki. And this is the actual sketch, by the way, that, he turned over to Julius. Well, just 3 weeks after the trial began, the Rosenbergs were convicted of espionage. They were sentenced to death on April 5th under Section 2 of the Espionage Act of 1917, which really says that anyone convicted of transmitting or attempting to transmit to a foreign government information relating to the national defense may be imprisoned or put to death. Yes. So after they were convicted, there was a giant outcry by many, many communist and left-leaning, some would say, organizations, artists. There were just a lot of people that were opposed to the death penalty, as there are now, good people that just are opposed to the death penalty. And there was a lot of controversy about Ethel's conviction due to the fact that her brother had changed his testimony completely, and there really wasn't a lot that connected her to all this. Okay? There were some corners of the world that you would have thought would have supported the Rosenbergs. The Rosenbergs were Jewish. They got no support for any Jewish organizations. The American Civil Liberties Union said they did not find any civil liberties during the trial that were violated. And I got to tell you, man, oh man, at this time in the United States, following a world war, on the cusp of McCarthyism, you just didn't want to side with people that were heavily connected to deep, 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 devastating espionage. But there were people that came out in their defense. Those people, most notably, were not American or living in the United States. They were people that lived primarily in Western Europe. Jean-Paul Sartre, the legendary existentialist, said it was illegal lynching. Jean Cocteau, a famous movie producer. There were a lot of others in the scientific community. Nelson Algren, Bertolt Brecht, Albert Einstein, famous writer Dashiell Hammett. They basically protested the American government over what they saw as the railroading of Ethel Rosenberg. Pablo Picasso wrote that this is not good. He wrote, "The hours count, the minutes count. Do not let this crime against humanity take place." The International Longshoremen's Association was against it. Cinema artists like Fritz Lang registered their protest. President Dwight D. Eisenhower, though, supported by public opinion and the media in the United States, ignored all these overseas demands. Pope Pius XII appealed to Eisenhower to spare the couple, but Eisenhower refused on February 11, 1953. All other appeals were also unsuccessful. So what happened next, you might ask? Well, they were sentenced to death, so yeah. The execution was delayed from the scheduled date of June 18th because of Supreme Court Associate Justice William O. Douglas had granted a stay of execution on the previous day. This stay resulted from intervention from some Tennessee lawyer whose efforts had really been scorned by the lawyer for Julius and Ethel named Lawyer Block. The execution was scheduled for 11 p.m. on the evening of June 18th during the Sabbath for Jewish people, which begins and ends around sunset. Block asked for more time, filing a complaint that the execution on the Sabbath offended the defendant's heritage And they made the argument before Judge Kaufman, but the strategy backfired. Kaufman, who did not want to execute the Rosenbergs on the Sabbath, merely rescheduled the execution for 8 p.m., which was before sunset and therefore before the Sabbath. And it was also the regular time for executions at Sing Sing, which, by the way, this behind me is Sing Sing prison. That's where the whole thing happened. I'm assuming the lights flickered on June 18th, 1953. But anyway, as for the execution itself, first of all, the Rosenbergs were allowed one last kiss. So there's our two star-crossed lovers in their final embrace. Julius was first to go, and he died from the first electric shock. Bam, done, quick and easy. And as if to prolong the sort of injustices, as some saw them, against Ethel, her execution didn't go as well. She had to have 3 electric shocks. And after that, attendants removed the strapping and other equipment, only to have doctors determine that her heart was still beating. 2 more electric shocks were applied. At the conclusion, eyewitnesses reported that smoke rose from her head. Now, the Rosenbergs, as Gene is pointing out, she was the first woman to be put to death for spying. Very true, Gene. However, the Rosenbergs were the only American civilians executed for espionage during the Cold War. And there you go. Their funeral drew quite a few people. 500 attended the funeral inside, and 10,000 stood outside. There's a lot of conjecture about whether this really, as I mentioned earlier, helped the Soviet nuclear program or not. General Leslie Groves, who was portrayed by Paul Newman in the movie Fat Man and Little Boy, he didn't think it did that much. He said that data went out of the case of the Rosenberg was of minor value, and he said that the effects were greatly exaggerated and the Russians didn't get too much information out of it. But he still thought what had happened should be kept very quiet. He didn't want anybody to know that the espionage had succeeded, although he still believed that the Rosenbergs should be put to death. By the way, that was part of his testimony to the United States Atomic Energy Commission, and that portion of his testimony was redacted and remained classified until 2014. Because much of what the Rosenbergs handed over in counterintelligence was encrypted and had to be decrypted by intelligence. The Soviet Union was sending messages to their spies, and those had to be decrypted. Well, in 1995, the U.S. government made all of these things like public, and there was a thing called the Verona Project that decrypted them. They got a bunch of, experts in decryption that did that. Many of them showed Julius Rosenberg's role as a productive part of a ring of spies. A 1994 cable, which gives the name Ruth Greenglass in clear text, says that Ruth's husband, David, is being recruited as a spy by his sister, that is Ethel Rosenberg, and her husband. Basically, when they went through all this stuff, there was absolutely no question that, that this had occurred. In 2001, David Greenglass, because remember, he got a long prison sentence, supposedly life, but he wasn't killed, so he was still alive in 2001, and he completely recanted his testimony about his sister having typed the notes. That story that he changed, so he got a prison term and his wife got charges dropped. He said, I frankly think my wife did the typing, but I don't remember. He said he gave false testimony to protect himself and his wife, and that he was encouraged by the prosecution to do so. He said, my wife is more important to me than my sister or my mother or my father, okay? She was the mother of my children. He refused to express remorse for his decision to betray his sister, saying only that he did not realize that the prosecution would push for the death penalty. He stated, I would not sacrifice my wife and my children for my sister. So there you go. A lot of books have come out about this. The Russian spy masters have written books about this. Morton Sobel was interviewed by the New York Times about this. Here's Morton Sobel later on in his life. Guess which one Morton Sobel is? If you guessed the absolute freak on the left-hand side of the photo, you are correct, sir. Chef's in the house for a second. Good to see you, Chef. Jared is here. There he goes. Long day at the widget factory. He does not like commies. Morton Sobel there admitted he'd given documents to the Soviet contact, but said these had to do with defensive radar and weaponry. He confirmed that Julius Rosenberg was in a conspiracy that delivered to the Soviets classified military-industrial information on the atomic bomb. How about those Rosenberg children? Those two little boys, Michael and Robert. How about those guys? Hey, Adam. Oops, sorry, Tom. Funny pause. Funny. I'm just going to put these two kids kissing up here because, we're all about love here on the Tom Gulley Show. We love love and those who do love. Anyway, the Rosenbergs' two sons, Michael and Robert, spent years trying to prove the innocence of their parents. They were orphaned by the executions. Now, keep in mind that one of their uncles went to jail. And they weren't adopted by their many aunts or uncles. Okay? They did spend some time under the care of their grandmothers, and then they were put into a children's home. But then they were adopted by communist activist Abel Meeropol and his wife Anne, and they took the Meeropol name. They acknowledged their father was involved in espionage, but they thought that there was too much prosecutorial and judicial misconduct and that their mother was convicted on flimsy evidence to place leverage on her husband and that neither deserved the death penalty. And they have carried on that fight since then, every time they could. In 2015, there was a big grand jury transcript release of the grand jury that charged the Rosenbergs. And the two sons called on President Barack Obama and his administration to acknowledge that Ethel Rosenberg's conviction and execution was wrongful and to issue a proclamation exonerating her. Didn't work out. In January 2017, Senator Elizabeth Warren sent Obama a letter requesting consideration of the request. And there was a campaign that was started to have this done, but it didn't happen. And I frankly think that any U.S. president isn't going to honor that just because of the nature of the espionage. I don't think they want to be the one that says we got the wrong people or we're going to forgive that. So there we are. And that is really all I have to tell you about Julius and Ethel Rosenberg. Daggone it, I closed down a window I was supposed to keep open. Dagnabbit. I don't know what tomorrow night's topic is going to be yet, by the way. No idea whatsoever. Not a clue. Not a clue. Not a clue. Let's see here. Well, let me see. What do I got here? What am I? Oh, that's what I'm doing. I'm gonna pin the link. I'm pinning the link up here, guys. I'm gonna pin the link. You betcha. Why wouldn't I pin the link? So that nobody at all could come onto the show. Why would I do that? I'd be a fool not to waste my time doing that. Yeah, shut that down. Hopefully you guys didn't hear that. No, you didn't. Good. Good. Jared still remembers the pictures of the Rosenbergs in one of his history books. Look at that smooch. Look at him smooching there, swapping spit, you know. I think that's at Sing Sing, or very close to Sing Sing. I might do a whole show on Sing Sing. It deserves a show. Pin that S. I don't know what that means. Still remember the pictures of the Rosenbergs in one of my history books. Yeah. Yeah. I pinned the link there. Got no idea what tomorrow's show is about. I know it will not be about the spoon of gloom, and I know it won't be about meals of misfortune. Those two things I do know. I'm very confident of that. I had some other things that I was talking to somebody about, and I was a bunch of them that I was like, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, and I didn't write them down, so I don't know what they're going to be now. Not a clue. Not a stinking clue. But I did pin the link, and it is pinned. I got stuff. Not like I don't got stuff. I got a bunch of old stuff here. Let me see what I got here. Most of these I did already. Keeping Up with Cold War, Stanislav Petrov show. I could stand. We could do one about bomb shelters, I suppose. Thomas got stuff and things. Well, you know, this is the show where you would learn things about stuff. Did I do Howard Cosell yet? Sidney Poitier? Scott Pilgrim? I did Monty Python. Ren and Stimpy? Carol Channing? Pretzels? I think I did Pretzels already. I did Lint. I did Ball Jars. I did the majority of those. That is not a thing with show. I did. Yeah, but these I did all of them already. Yeah. These are just good movies to watch on Tubi for free. It's just a list of movies I need to watch. Terry Garr, Section 230. Dan Rather. Hey, now we're talking. Stockholm Syndrome. I don't think I've done that. I did The Wonder Bra. Elephants. Ooh, COINTEL Pro. I was kind of wanting to do something kind of fun for tomorrow. String Bean, Barbie Benton. H.R. Puffin stuff, or just Sid and Marty Krofft, the people who produced that. Mike Rowe, Herpes. Elliot Ness, I did already. Yes, Dan Rather, what's the frequency, Kenneth, as he was getting his face beat in. What's the frequency, Kenneth? Kaufman, 2-bar, Bill Hicks. Let me see. That's nothing. I did wiping. I did all these. This is an old one. Jeez Louise. I could do one about coronet blue, nothing but blue. And it's a sad time. You guys don't care about coronet blue. It's amazing, but you don't care about it. It's amazing, but you don't care about it. Let's see here. What was somebody saying? Barbarella? Do you really want me to do Barbarella? I'll do Barbarella. It seems kind of fun. I don't know why I wouldn't, but I do Barbarella. McHale's Navy. I could do McHale's Navy. Oh, I could do that in a heartbeat. It would take nothing for me to do McHale's Navy. I did pickleball. I did all those. MASH ran longer than the war. Yes, it did. It certainly did. And funnier. Alan Turing. I could do one on Alan Turing. Let's see here. I really could do one on... Ooh, look how many of these... Oh, no, this is a list of ones I need to turn into podcasts. With all the free time I had, it's decided, do a MASH episode. You want me to do one on MASH? Okay, I'm doing the show MASH. There we go. Na 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 na. Suicide is painless. Is the I said the word. I think I'm allowed to say it in that context. Well, not when there's a chicken on the bus. I don't know what that means, but it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh. I used to work at you can do a show on the movie too. Well, I'm going to combine them into both. I'm just going to touch on the movie, then I'm going to do the TV show. A little on the movie, then a lot on the TV show. American Comedy Drama Series. Oh, you son of a... Oh, there we go. There we go. Let's see what I'm working with. And frankly, with the recent death of Loretta Swit, it just makes sense. It's time. It's time. Let me see if I've got I've got some photography, revealing photography. Wow. I'm learning things. I'm learning. Okay. Tomorrow's show, I just decided myself, without any input from anyone else in the world, it's going to be MASH. Let's see here. It brings on many changes. Unalive is painless. Nick. When that song came on television, it meant I had to go to sleep. Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I think it would play after 60 Minutes on Sunday nights. But then it was syndicated for a long time, Jared. So you could just see it in the afternoon after you came home from school. 60 Minutes used to be a great show. I have to emphasize used to be. Why do you figure they didn't put the kids down, too? I don't know. They probably had it coming. Jared, as it concerns 60 Minutes, the thing I remembered the most about 60 Minutes was Pat Summerall's voice at the end of a football game that had gone really long. Then we'll send you to 60 Minutes at the conclusion of this ball game. He would always be, CBS on Sunday night would always be telling you 60 minutes. Because people were tuning in for 60 minutes, and there was, minute and a half left in the Cowboys-Redskins game. I have the box set of MASH, and I also had the action figures. I didn't know there were action figures. Are you telling me there's a Margaret Houlihan action figure out there somewhere? Let's not go any further than that. Let's get Julius and Ethel off the screen, please. I mean, I realize that puts me on the screen, which is only less, whatever. Okay, well, I guess that can just do it for tonight's program. There's no reason to drag this out. Nobody's used the link again. The only people that use the link are people that come on and use profanity and spread whole lots of conspiracy theories. There is a Margaret action figure, Hot Lips. All right. Is there a Frank Burns? We lost a little when Frank Burns left the series, but I think we got a lot more when David Ogden Stiers came on as Major Winchester. Incidentally, I worked with David Ogden Stiers in I had him voice over a radio commercial for me. I didn't meet him. He was on a phone patch thing, but nice man. He's a very, very nice man. So tomorrow, MASH. MASH significant because you put a period at the end of every letter except for the H. I can't believe they killed off Frank. That was unnecessary. Did they kill him off or did they ship him off? I don't think they killed him off, did they? I think they just sent him away. The guy they killed off that shocked everybody was McLean Stevenson as the first colonel before Colonel Sherman T. Potter. No, that was McLean Stevenson. That was McLean Stevenson because he said goodbye to everybody in his civvy clothes with his spats on and stuff. And Radar saluted him, was standing there saluting him, and he came by. And it's a very touching, it's a very famous scene because I don't think they announced that was going to happen. It was the colonel that got shot. Well, and then Radar comes into the operating room and reads the telegram that his helicopter was shot down in the Sea of Japan. Do I need to watch MASH first so things aren't spoiled? Well, Sky, good luck. There's like 8 seasons of it. In addition to the fact, I think to this day, the final episode of MASH is the highest rated single episode of any television series ever. Highest rating and most viewers. I'm pretty sure I'm right about that. Tom is right. Well, over the Sea of Japan. Yes, Gene 1313. You're picking up what I'm putting down. That was so sad when Radar spoke. And also, it was just silence in the operating room. When the show first began, it was just played for laughs. And then as it went on, it was more serious and more serious. We had Wayne Rogers leaving as B.J. Honeycutt. Not B.J. Honeycutt, as Trapper John at the beginning, and then they brought in Mike Farrell as B.J. Honeycutt. I guess I need to watch the show at some point. Well, you could watch the last episode or so. There's so many good episodes. There's the documentary episode. There's the episode where Hawkeye and Houlihan get stranded behind enemy lines. There's just a lot of great episodes. There's too many to list. Alan Alda made it too serious, to be honest. When he started directing all the episodes, kind of. There's still enough comedy in there. Oh, Chef. Okay. Got to say goodnight, Gracie. Good night, Gracie. All right, that's going to do it for me tonight. Those of you who might not have been listening, we are going to do MASH, Be Here. And Sky, if you've never seen the show, you can watch tomorrow night's episode, and it's not going to ruin 8 years of stuff for you. It'll be fine. It'll be just fine. Goodbye, Gene1313. So good to have you here, and thank you for knowing so much about so much. Anyway, I think I've said all I can say. And with all that being said, I think the only thing to say is, maybe just watch the movie if you don't want to watch any of the seasons. You could start by watching the movie, but the movie and the show, I think, are two very different animals. But the movie will get you started. It really will. Hey, Tom, I need to make a soup tomorrow. Any suggestions? Yeah, don't make the soup. Make a pizza instead. And with all that being said, I think the only thing left to say is, till next time. We'll see you next time.
'We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin, and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gully, yes I am. So what we're talking